What if I told you that James Gunn's Superman, that Superman reboot might already be on life support? After years of hype, $300 million in costs, and marketing so massive it could have funded a small country, Superman didn't just fly into theater, she faceplanted. And now, DC fans are asking the one question no studio ever wants to hear. Did we just witness a $300 million disaster in real time? Before we dive in real quick, if you're into bold takes, honest breakdowns, and pop culture with a punch, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. You'll be part of Day One history on Pop Watch. Now let's get into it. James Gunn promised us a new era, a cinematic resurrection. Superman like we've never seen before. And to be fair, this wasn't just a movie, it was the cornerstone for the entire DCU reboot. The film that would lift Metropolis and Warner Brothers out of the ashes. But instead of soaring, it stumbled. Hard. How bad are we talking? Let's just say Warner Brothers is already doing PR backflips, trying to spin this opening weekend like it's not that bad. Not that bad? They're out here practically begging us to believe that $500 million would be a win. For Superman? Let that sink in. The most iconic superhero in history. A global household name. And they're already lowering the bar before the final numbers are even in? That's not a red flag. That's a bat signal for panic. So, let me get this straight. You're launching an entirely new cinematic universe, the foundation of everything that's supposed to follow, and you're already moving the goalpost before the game even kicks off? That's not strategy. That's damage control dressed up in a cape. Let's break it down. Warner Brothers claims the production budget for Superman was $225 million. Sounds steep, right? But come on, nobody actually believes that number. Between reshoots, ballooning post-production costs, and a marketing campaign that basically smothered the internet for months, this thing didn't just go over budgeted, went sky high. We're talking somewhere around $425 million, maybe even $500 million, if you believe the industry insiders who've been whispering behind the scenes. And what did Warner Brothers get for that jaw-dropping investment? A $217 million global opening weekend. That's it. Not $300 million, not $400 million, just over half of what it costs to make. That's not just a weak start, that's a red alert with sirens blaring. And let's not forget, this wasn't some unknown character making their screen debut. This was Superman, the superhero of superheroes, the blueprint, the gold standard. He doesn't just wear the cape, he invented it. Yet somehow, this bold reimagining from James Gunn couldn't even beat Ant-Man 3. Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the one with the weird jelly people and the quantum spaghetti. How does that happen? This wasn't some experimental art film or a risky origin story. It was Superman. And it didn't even crack the kind of numbers that a third-tier Marvel entry pulled in with half the hype. Humiliating isn't even the word. But wait, it gets worse. The PR spin kicked in instantly. "It's the biggest Superman debut ever," they shouted. "It beat Man of Steel." Yeah, let's rewind that real quick. Back in 2013, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel opened with $128 million domestic in its first weekend. And that was over a decade ago. $128 million. That's what Man of Steel pulled in over a decade ago, and that was without the bloated Thursday previews we have now. Back then, you got Friday through Sunday. No Thursday afternoon head start, no inflated numbers. Today's Thursday, previews basically begin at lunchtime. They bake the weekend total before most people even get off work. So when someone tells you James Gunn's Superman outperformed Man of Steel, ask them this. Are you lying, clueless, or just hoping we don't know how box office math works? Because here's the truth. Gunn's Superman made $122 million domestically in its opening weekend. That's $6 million less than Man of Steel, and that's before adjusting for inflation. Adjust for inflation? It's not even a close fight, it's a knockout. Gunn didn't just lose to Snyder, he got left in the dust. And we're not even done. Let's take this global. International numbers? Also disappointing. A wide release across the globe, from China to Brazil, France to Australia, and it only scraped together $95 million internationally. That's it. With a full throttle, same day, everywhere release. Now compare that to Man of Steel, which only launched in 24 international markets at first and still managed $71 million without even hitting China yet. So let's recap. Fewer markets, no China, less hype, and still came dangerously close to Gunn's worldwide launch. Which means, with all the advantages, all the buzz, all the A-listers, audiences still didn't care. They just didn't show up. So now come the excuses. Oh, maybe it'll have legs. People just need time. This is a slow burn. Yeah? And maybe Warner Brothers will suddenly start making smart decisions. Maybe superhero fatigue will just magically disappear. Maybe audiences will line up in week 3 after ignoring it on opening night. Let's be honest, it's not happening. This isn't 2012 anymore. Comic book movies don't have legs like they use Tonot in this climate. We've had a decade of overload, recycled plots, bloated CGI, franchise fatigue, studios chasing universes before they even build one compelling story. This is the post-MCU crash era. Audiences are burnt out. They're done handing out free passes. And in 2025, you get one shot, one weekend to make an impression. If you don't light the box office on fire immediately, you're done. And that's exactly where Warner Brothers stands right now. Yes, in theory, a movie can still have legs, but let's look at the actual data. Take the Batman Robert Pattinson's gritty, grounded reboot. No multiverse nonsense, no cosmic explosions, just smart marketing and a recognizable hero. It opened to $250 million globally. And that was still during the pandemic recovery. It had legs because it earned them. It wasn't trying to start 15 spin-offs and 4 shows before it even proved itself. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because it tells you everything you need to know. That film opened with numbers similar to James Gunn's Superman in the US, but overseas, it exploded. Why? Because audiences actually liked the first 2. Because the franchise had goodwill. Because Gunn, back then, didn't bury fans under Twitter politics or smug subversion. People cared. They wanted to go back. They told their friends. Now, let me ask you, do you really think this Superman movie has that kind of energy? That kind of loyalty? That wildfire word of mouth that keeps movies alive? Come on, be honest. Because from where I'm sitting, it doesn't. Not even close. Even Shazam 2, a movie that bombed so hard it practically scorched the DC brand still, managed to pull a stronger international opening than Gunn's Superman. Shazam 2, that's like a backup singer outperforming Beyoncé in ticket sales. And yet somehow, Superman, the most globally recognized superhero on Earth, couldn't match that. This isn't just a bad weekend. It's a pattern. Warner Brothers keeps swinging and missing, again and again. And the wildest part, they seem completely unaware of why. They poured everything into this film. Time, money, hype. James Gunn himself was positioned as the savior, the guy who would fix everything. The new Kevin Feige, the visionary. They handed him the master key to the DC kingdom and said, go rebuild it. And this is the foundation? A lukewarm, soft launch debut with no international fire and a fan base split straight down the middle? This isn't a step forward. It's a red flag so big it could double as a Comic-Con banner. Let's not forget, this movie wasn't just another entry. It was the first domino, the reset button. The film meant to win back the skeptics, reignite Superman's legacy, and signal to the world that DC was back. Instead, what we got feels like the cinematic version of a shrug. The internet is divided. Half hates it, half pretends to like it, and the rest quietly underwhelmed. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers is already out here redefining success like it's a magic trick. Suddenly, $500 million is a win. Suddenly, breaking even is a victory lap. Suddenly, well, it opened better than Blue Beetle is a talking point. Let's be real. $500 million? That's not a win. Not when the film cost over $400 million. Not when the theaters take half. Not when you promised your investors a sprawling DC universe built on this exact movie. This isn't profitable. It's not stable. And it's definitely not inspiring confidence. This is corporate coping, and we've seen it before. And the reviews, let's not act like they're glowing. Some fans like it, some critics are being kind, but even the most generous reactions sound like polite disappointment. You hear words like, promising start, not bad, a step in the right direction. But what you don't hear, classic, game changer, best Superman movie ever. Because nobody's saying that, not even close. And you know what? Superman deserves better than this. He's earned better than this. This was supposed to be his big return, his redemption arc, the moment when the most iconic hero in comic book history flew back into cultural dominance. But instead, he's losing to Ant-Man. Let that sink in. Superman can't beat Ant-Man. That's where we are now. And the question everyone's asking is simple. What now? You already know how this goes. The movie stumbles out of the gate and here come the usual suspects. Variety, Deadline, all the Hollywood insiders suddenly discovering that the film has strong legs and audiences love it. Like clockwork. Next comes the influencer wave. Watch for the hashtag campaigns, the viral TikToks with emotional music, people calling this the most relatable Superman yet. Then boom, Rotten Tomatoes scores magically tick upward overnight. Shocking. But here's the reality check. None of that changes the bottom line. No matter how many bold vision think pieces they publish, the numbers are locked in. And they're not heroic, they're humbling. This wasn't a triumphant relaunch. It was a polite shrug wrapped in fireworks. Unless this thing pulls off a miracle leg run, which almost never happens anymore, it's on track to become one of the most overpromised and underdelivered superhero launches ever made. And not because it's the worst movie, not because critics torched it, but because this was Superman, and Superman is supposed to mean something. When the guy who started the entire genre can't even ignite a decent box office spark, that's not just disappointing, that's dangerous. Especially when the studio has already gone all in. They've greenlit spin-offs, scripts are locked, television shows are in motion. This wasn't a test run. This was supposed to be the foundation of the new DC universe. So if Superman the icon, the symbol, the hero who wears hope on his chest can't deliver a slam dunk, what on earth makes Warner Brothers think general audiences are going to show up for Booster Gold? Or The Authority? Or Swamp Thing? If the public didn't show up for the main attraction, why would they care about the side acts? And if this all feels familiar, that's because it is. This is exactly how the last DC universe crumbled. A few shaky openings, some wishful thinking, then the panic, then the reboot, then another reboot. And the fans? We're stuck in a loop watching the same mistakes get repackaged as bold new visions. That's the real danger here. Not just that Superman stumbled, but that he might drag down the whole thing with him. And honestly, that hurts. Because these characters matter. These stories deserve better. Superman deserves better. But now, we're left wondering, is this the rebirth we were promised, or the beginning of another slow-motion collapse? You tell me. Are you buying the studio spin? Do you believe this movie can bounce back? Or are we already watching the next DC collapse play out in real time? Drop your thoughts in the comments because we see through the Hollywood gloss. Smash that like button, subscribe to Pop Watch to help us hit 1,000 subscribers, and turn on that bell so you never miss the next breakdown. And remember, here at Pop Watch, we're not just watching the headlines, we're watching the truth behind them.